A world where cannabis is more than just a plant, there's a podcast that's changing the game. Welcome to the Daily Chronicles. Your ultimate destination for all things cannabis. The Daily Chronicles, your trusted voice in the cannabis community. Tune in to the Daily Chronicles podcast, available on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. The Daily Chronicles, your trusted voice in the cannabis community.
NOK Network offers a diverse lineup of live video podcasts. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh, nightly at 7 p.m. Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Psychedelic Reporters, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Peace, News and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Open Your Eye, Thursdays at 8 p.m. What's up, Northern Ontario? Spotlight on Entertainment, Movie Nights, and live on location coverage, monthly on NOK. Miss a podcast? Catch the replay anytime on Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. You can also find us on our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Discover the power of creativity and passion, bringing your visions to life, creating moments that resonate. Book your project today. Only at 117 Productions. Strange Matter Coffee is more than just a place to get your caffeine fix. It's a labor of love, a temple of craftsmanship, and a testament to the spirit of Lansing. Strange Matter Coffee, where the love for coffee and community collide. Hey, what's going on, my tokers, jokers, and smokers? Welcome back to another late edition of the Daily Chronicles, y'all. What's going on? Rodney, your host, back in the house with my dude, Robert Attwood, or as I know him, Bobbie. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
All right, Rodney, thanks for having me on today, man. How are you doing?
Oh, dude, we're getting on. We're getting on. You know, a little bit of wake and bake over here in the U.S. How's it over in Australia, man?
Yeah, man, pretty good, bro. Tail end of winter. I got a big flask of American wild turkey, American honey right next to me. So yeah, life's good, bro.
Gotta love that wild turkey, man.
Oh yeah, man.
I liked it a little too much in my lifetime, but you know, that's neither here nor there. I appreciate you coming on, man. We're gonna change it up a little bit today, guys. Normally we talk about all things weed, this and that and this and that, and we'll get to that, but that's not what I wanted to have my buddy on here for. So I want to talk about entrepreneurship and small business kind of, vibes, growing up into the world, kind of doing things outside and after the kitchen, if you will, because as I found out, a lot of it's the same. Whether it be, Ireland, United States, or Australia, it's actually kind of the same. People wouldn't believe it, and it would blow your mind. So, without any other further ado, I'd love to dive into that shit and talk about Bobbie's Bites.
Yeah. So, Bobbie's Bites is a spice and rub company that I started messing around with the initial concept of it a little while ago. And I was still working full time. I didn't have a ton of capital behind me. So it spent probably longer than I would have liked in R&D phase, in which anybody who's sort of dabbled in entrepreneurship would understand that making that initial jump and sort of throwing yourself into something is probably the hardest part about it, just to sort of build up that self-belief and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, it's been going from strength to strength. It's finally starting to, to gather some real momentum now. And, after the initial lockdowns of COVID, that's sort of what triggered it.
Right.
And, I had my eyes opened, as it were, I guess, about the realities of our industry when it comes to cooking. One of the strengths I always used to think about chefing was that you'll always have work and you always have steady and solid work, and
everyone's got to eat. Right.
Yeah, and that was proven to be pretty false.
Yeah.
And then when my son came along, I realized that I didn't want to miss out on time with him making somebody else fucking rich. So Bobbie started, and here I am now.
I feel like there's going to be this tidal wave of change. There already is, but even more so. And I find myself a little envious, but hopeful at the same time, and I'll explain. So envious that it didn't happen while I was in, you know what I'm saying? It didn't happen while I was putting in the 17-hour days, and stuff like that. Right. Yeah. So I wish it would have happened a decade ago. Truth be told, let's be honest. I would have wanted to directly benefit from it.
I'd agree.
I'm glad to see the future of cooks and chefs being carried on, doing the same thing, putting in the time on the line, if you will. I like seeing them. I like it seeing benefiting them, in this future generations of cooks. So I would rather somebody benefit from it and change being instituted and changed for the better versus, me being selfish and have, and wishing it could have just happened to me. It's a very, boomer mindset in a sense, if you will.
Yeah, it is the old I did it the hard way, so you had to, or we've always done it this way, so this is the way you fucking do it. Bullshit. I would definitely agree that 10 years ago, but it's definitely changed the industry. Well, we have a chance to change the industry for the better, and I'm definitely seeing a lot more. I've seen an explosion on Facebook, definitely since COVID, of so many more people on my friends list now, man. They're getting into consulting, or they're opening up a training company or a HR company, whatever it is. They're really starting to sort of seek out these avenues of self-employment, entrepreneurship, and brick and mortar businesses. Food trucks are real popular. I've noticed with a lot of my American friends, they're not as popular here, and we'll get to touch on that. Probably why a little bit later.
Do you think that? Yeah, I was going to say. Do you think that's going to come around?
So the reason food trucks aren't as popular in Australia actually hasn't got anything to do with the food trucks themselves. We like markets. We like market food. We're a very social culture. We have a lot of festivals and gathering around with friends and family and sort of community. Something that Australians do like to do. A lot of it's to do with local councils and governments. There's a lot of restrictions on where you can and can't have food trucks, and it becomes a very expensive endeavor. So, for example, a friend of mine has one. He can park in one spot for 6 hours, 5 days a week. That's the only permit he's allowed to have on public land. So he can rack up, weddings and private functions to his heart's content. Yeah, but to operate within the city limits, he has to pay, and it's not a cheap license. It's like $12,000 a year, and he can operate in one little car park next to one park for 6 to 7 hours a day. And it's just things like that, and that's very common. So you can't just pull up and start selling. You know.
I knew the water went backwards there, but I didn't think the logic did.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, so like there's a soccer meet on, right? There's an inter-club soccer meet. There's 500 kids at an oval. In America, 2 food trucks can pull up, make a couple of grand, a few hours, take off,
ding,
right?
Ding, dinner's done, right?
No, man. Food truck rocks up, try to sell cash. Someone from the council comes down, you get slapped with a fine, and please explain. So it's a real dampener on the culture, which sucks. It sucks a lot because I like food trucks. I dig them a lot, but they just the restrictive nature of the regulations around them here it just doesn't allow for that explosion that you guys have, and I definitely see among the American contingent of my friends list and my chef groups and stuff.
And I think
it's
food trucks in America are like sharks in Australia. You're not very far from one at any given time.
It would be nice, but I wouldn't imagine it. I don't foresee it changing anytime soon. It's just one of those things. It's just hard. It's hard to do here. That being said, there are people that have made success out of it, but yeah, it's definitely difficult.
That's definitely one of the things that I love seeing the future of, because back when, again, on the line and stuff, I didn't really see a lot of food trucks because I was in the kitchen, so I wasn't privy to that scene. But as soon as I started making my transition outside of the kitchen and coming around, it's like you said, boom, it's just everywhere, and everyone's got a food truck or they want to get one or they're working on one. And I think that was part of the evolution, because I thought that, back in the day, we knew where the kitchen was. We knew where the light at the end of the tunnel. We knew all of that. We knew what the fuck we were doing. We knew where the trenches were.
Yeah,
we didn't think it wasn't really a mobile battle. I mean, yeah, out west, California, you'd hear, oh, this food truck and that food truck. And you're like, food trucks are expensive. Then once you realize they're not, well, they are. Don't get me wrong. But they're not unobtainable. And then once people started obtaining them and traveling, I think it just set this new course for life and just kind of business and pleasure and food and all of that. I love it. As a matter of fact, my brother-in-law, that's what he does. He travels in his van. His van is his house.
Yeah, nice.
Like, you see those people in the internet, and fucking homie should definitely be filming some of this. And sometimes he does, but he should be more consistent because I'm interested. Yeah. But the point is, because I know him, great pictures, great fucking videos. He's killing it. He's out Yellowstone area right now. So beautiful area, and doing his thing. But food does that too, in some cases, like you were saying, there's a bunch of people up for a football or a soccer or rugby meet or something, a couple food trucks come out, bang out, a good lunch, a solid lunch, a solid dinner, everybody's fed, everybody's paid, it's happy go lucky, right? That's the idea of it. Go to where the people are. And that's dope as shit, because in America, if you live on the fucking border, there's a ton of shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody, tourist towns and locations, things like that, like Miami Beach or something, right? Well, it's going to be very abundant with a lot of Cuban, types of influence and fusion and American food. You get the idea. Well, what if you wanted that in, let's say, Tennessee? That's going to be really hard to do, right? Yeah. Unless somebody from, let's say Little Havana, okay, moved to Nashville and started a food truck. Exactly. And so it's spreading this America is a melting pot, like we would like to call it, but it's spreading this concept of different aspirations of fusion around the world, across the nation, with food trucks.
Yeah, it's amazing, man, and it's something that we just miss out on it, and it's just something that, look, I would love to have a fleet. Like, if we had a similar setup, council wise or, regulation wise, I would love to have a fleet of them. Like, it would just be my thing, man. And But
Boy, Choi does. I mean, one of Anthony Bourdain's old friends out in the West Coast, he has I think it was 7 or 8 food trucks from the same restaurant.
Yeah, no.
So his little operation. That's some Grand Theft Auto shit right there is what that is. My operation. But no, that's dope. Speaking of operations, man, tell me more about Bobbie's Bites. All right, so you figured you wanted some, what was it? Some more family time with the family, less work, so a better family to work ratio.
Yeah.
You're coming out to the age where, I mean, let's be honest, we can't keep up, with the kids on the lines these days. We could. And we know what we're doing. We're just not going to be as fast. We're going to burn out quicker. At least me, I'll fully admit that. But I can, cook at home. Oh, hell, I cook at home. I make my own butter. In America, you can't. Not a lot of people can say that. But at the same time, Bobbie's Bites, man. You came out, you started doing spices. What made you land on spices and kind of seasonings? Why not make your own butter or anything of that nature? Why was it specifically those?
I grew up in a very plain house, meat and 3 veg. So, steak and vegetables. Okay. I grew up on a farm in the country. And so mum was a decent cook. And even my dad could cook a little bit, but pretty plain stuff. And I always had a fairly plain palate until I became a chef. And then I kind of was introduced to I started my apprenticeship at 14 and 10 months old. So I was really young when I was introduced to kitchens. And just the idea of the simplicity of the flavor of spices I've always loved, right? I can take a plain piece of shitty beef, like chuck beef, man. I can stick 3 or 4 spices on it, slow cook it, and it completely changes the nature of that. It's dog food, but before you, and that's I've always appreciated that. I've always been drawn to it. I spent a lot of time working in a Spanish North African fusion tapas restaurant, and that really opened me up to, we would do kangaroo tagines, Moroccan inspired kangaroo tagines. We would do barramundi's a famous fish here, we eat lots of it. We do Tunisian, Algerian spiced fish curries and stuff like that. And I worked at that venue for nearly 4 years, and that's sort of where I really honed my taste for spices and my sort of love affair with them. And then when it came time to all right, I'm going to do something for myself. Right. It was a fairly easy decision for me, just because I already had a really sort of fondness for the simplicity of them, in the sense of something doesn't taste nice, a few shakes of a nice spice blend, and bang, you've got yourself a gorgeous meal. And there's nothing complicated about it. There's nothing, I don't have to, go through a 10-step fucking process with a housewife to get her to make something nice for her family, And so, and my whole career has been centered around the idea of KISS.
Okay.
My whole cooking philosophy is centered on that. And so, it was just sort of an extension of that. And that's where I landed. But even my blends themselves, I mean, I've got one blend that has 12 things in it, which is a little ridiculous, but it's my wife's favorite, so it's going to stay on the range. But
hey, listen, that you got to keep her happy above all. I like that approach, keeping it simple, stupid. I dig that. And truth be told, a lot of the greats would. Augustus Escoffier would tell you that. The devil in the kitchen himself, Marco Pierre White, would say that, because cooking as a philosophy is absolutely right. And the more thought that you put into it, the more complex and complicated that thought becomes, And so 12 ingredients, that's not that bad. Not when a foodie is lifting off 59 things they've never heard of for a dish they couldn't make, And so it drives me insane. Please note that there's a difference between a foodie and an enthusiast, So it's kind of crazy, but
probably stay away from the subject of foodies, because I can download, man. I can fucking download.
We might not. I'll tell you the truth. But I look at it this way, I see that Australia, you have this evolving food scene. Okay, you have this food scene that has a canvas of flavors, and influences, but how do you take Bobbie's Bites and capture essence, of culinary evolution, if you want to call it, while also standing out in this sea of options with these new and amalgamating kind of flavors coming to the scene?
I would say I just stick to my core principle, which is
keep it simple. Right. Okay. Okay.
Also, like Australia as a whole, we don't really have, apart from our Indigenous brothers and sisters who have a very rich, very, very rich and very deep sort of culinary history, white Australia, if you will, we don't really have a real deep, like Americans, like Low and Slow,
yep.
The Creole stuff as well. We don't really have any sort of identity like that. So a lot of Australians don't grow up with a sophisticated palate or one that's overly, how do I put this politely?
Or put it bluntly, bud.
They're not really up for new adventures in the culinary world, if you know what I mean. A lot of the time,
traditionals, yeah.
So what I try to do is take something that's really familiar to Australians. So Aussies eat a lot of meat, right? Especially beef. We eat a lot of beef. It's because we produce a lot. So we're actually the world's second largest exporter of beef. We produce a fuckload, man. And we eat a lot of it too. Lamb,
so good.
Pork, chicken. Yeah, our beef is good. So what I tried to do is, so for example, my beef rub, it's got a basic base that is familiar to the fairly standard palate that most Australians have. And then I fill it out with my little twists. So mustard powders, a really high-end expensive paprika I get my hands on. Instead of just plain brown sugar, I use other sugars. And so I just kind of play on that a little bit.
Sounds like a good bark so far. Okay.
Yeah. So my personal favorite's lamb. Lamb's my personal favorite meat. And my rub, my lamb rub, for example, has sumac in it. There's no lamb rubs on the market that has sumac in it.
No.
So that's how I sort of approach it, where I kind of, you kind of soften them up. You kind of soften them up, and they're like, oh, that's really nice. Then you sort of got these like these background flavors. And my pork rub, for example, is made on whole fennel seed, man. I roast the whole fennel seeds, blend them up fine. There's not many pork rubs made on fennel seed. People are scared of it, right? It's too strong. They don't know how to balance it properly, etc. So yeah, that's how I would. That's my angle, or that's my sort of point of difference in market speak, or in
It makes you stand out for sure.
Yeah, and I'm open with people about it too. I'm like, hey man, this isn't an overly complicated thing, but you wouldn't have tasted a lamb rub that has this in it. You wouldn't have, and that's sort of how I go about it. And people respond well to it, because I'm like, cook your food how you have been cooking it. Just add this, and then it'll taste better. And they're like, okay, cool, bro. And off they go. That
sounds really, on par for how I view Australians, and I'll explain. You have a very laid back kind of, well, it's no secret, that Australians have a laid back kind of vibe, and
very relaxed.
Exactly. You're more worried about enjoying life's pleasures versus making money, like us Yanks over here, being millionaires and whatnot, and we're not. We're
Definitely.
not. If anything, the tax man is just tightening that noose even more and more. Yeah. But I wonder, how does the experience in indulging, like Bobbie's Bites, kind of align with the easygoing spirit of Australian culture? Like you said, you're taking these nuances like sumac and mustard powder and things like that, and you're adding them into what's already there traditionally. Now, being laid back, you feel that people are accepting that? Is this kind of my question? Or do you feel like they're kind of nah, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, absolutely. So absolutely. So so same thing. So my one of my beef rubs, for example, I'm like, hey man, do you make your own burgers at home? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, chuck this in instead. I'm like, what do you normally season it with? They're like, oh, salt and pepper. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you can do that, and you should do that, but if you can put this in instead. So I find if I can just find a way of just using my rubs to replace something that they already use, or just to add it to something they already cook, I can sort of get around that. And I have the benefit of being a chef when I talk to people, because I sell everything in person, right? I do markets, I do like pop-ups in shops and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm in front of the people I sell a lot, and I can easily convey the best way to use it, or how they should use it, or how it's going to, more importantly, I should say, how it's going to make their food taste better and make their life easier, right? So again, a slow cooker, right? Slow cookers are pretty popular in Australia. We use them a lot. And then if you got some beef and some, canned tomatoes, chuck 2 tablespoons of this in, come back in 6 hours, dinner's ready. They're like, oh, fucking sweet, bro.
Straight from the horse's mouth, us the Yanks would say.
Yeah, and also I have a salt range as well. I have a range of salts that I use, and I find that they fill in gaps nicely, because a lot of Australians, without a sophisticated palate or without wanting to really fuck with their food too much, so I have like mushroom salts and red wine salts and garlic salts, and I've got ones for vegetables and I've got ones for fish. I'm like, hey man, do you use salt? I'm like, do you use salt in your cooking? They're like, yeah. I'm like, cool, take this one, substitute what you're using with this one. Bob's your uncle. And they're like, yeah, fucking all right, man, sweet. And then so it's just about providing a product that doesn't sort of alienate people too much, and just sort of, it just helps them sort of not transition, helps them sort of,
right? Yeah,
and it sort of helps them cross that bridge to I mean, fuck, man, trying to get Aussies to eat, Asian food we're okay with. Food we're okay with.
Right.
And the low and slow's blowing up here right now. It has been for probably 8-9 years, I would say. It's really blowing up. Funnily enough, coincided with the craft beer boom, which is amusing. So the barbecue, and because we like barbecuing so much, we have Yanks and Australians have a different idea on what barbecuing is. Like we just grill. Like you guys call it grilling, we call it barbecuing.
Right.
But we love doing that. But normally it's just, sausages and some steaks, and that's it. We don't normally get too flash with it. But that's changing a lot. So you sort of tapping into sort of this sort of emerging kind of,
culture.
How would I say it? Like an emerging psyche around food in a sense. Right. Like, oh, hey, man, I don't have to just eat fucking boiled potatoes with sausages for dinner. Like, no, you don't. And if you want to, that's fine. I've got some shit that'll make it taste nice. So, yeah.
Dude, a couple questions, man, and I'm excited about this. Like, do you ship to the United States?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Well, I'm gonna be fucking putting it in order soon, because I love my nuanced salts. Like the new, in the kitchen, growing up, really it was just AP, all purpose, and that was half salt, fucking half pepper. You grab it, bam. Don't fucking scream at your food like Emerald Lagasse. Holy shit! But I'm just saying, like, there it is. I get it.
He's the BAM guy, right?
He is the BAM guy. Yeah, he's gonna pop up and sue me with a cease and desist here soon. Watch, yeah.
Yeah, I saw him. I remember like some random fucking morning show was on at like 4 o'clock in the morning one morning here. It was like NBC, whatever the fuck it was, and I was only a teenager, and I remember watching him. He's like, BAM! I'm like, bro.
Why are you screaming at food? Like, yeah. Okay, so I'm really good friends with Miss Beth Aretsky, and we were talking about how Anthony Bourdain felt about Emerald Lagasse and the BAM and stuff, and great conversation. And I asked her a question, and she's just like, I have no idea, never thought about that. I was like, why is he screaming at food? Like when I was a little kid, and he was like, BAM! I'm like, Mom, I'm in this restaurant, I'm watching this little TV, because I would do my prep as I would watch my TV and my stuff on all the same table, because my mom owned a fucking restaurant, and I remember, BAM, him screaming at it, the whole setup, the show, and I have this whole restaurant to the side of me in prep room, and the other I'm going, can somebody please explain to me why this man is screaming at food? Like it's already dead, but I digress. We've reached that point in the time, man, of the show. It's called the card trick. For those of you who know,
my dog, get out.
You're all right,
Sorry.
Doggos. I love them. You're all right. Card trick. So I'm gonna shuffle them up. On the back side of them, there are questions, terribly written. I've had to like really read. I was high when I did it. What do you want? So mix them up. All right, we're gonna go left, center, right.
Yeah, I have to go center, man. I have to go.
Gotta go center.
Yeah.
All right. So this question is downright the most nefarious of them all.
Get ready for Lie to Me.
People hate this question. This is lie to me. So, Bobbie, lie to me. I want you to stand 180 degrees from where your life is now. Turn around, look back into your past as far back as you can, as far back as you need to. What is one lie that you've told, gotten away with, but knew you shouldn't have?
Not inadvertently, I shouldn't say that. No. I nearly ruined 2 young chefs' careers when I was younger, due to nothing more than humiliation and greed, I would say. So we do apprenticeships here in Australia. So apprenticeship, you do a 4-year apprenticeship, you get signed off as a chef, qualified chef, we call him here, certificate 3, commercial cookery. I got to my first time through my apprenticeship, I got to the very end. I told my boss I had completed it because I wanted the pay rises and stuff involved with the certificate. Got my pay rises. A couple of years later, I had a couple of apprentices underneath me, and I started signing their trade papers, right? So your training papers get signed by a tradesman.
Okay.
And I signed their trades papers knowing full well that I was not qualified. And then 6 months later, their trainers come back. They're like the training company come back and signatures aren't valid, the whole lid got blown off it. I went and then spent more money to go back and actually finish my apprenticeship legit. I then personally trained those 2 boys. And then, yeah.
You made it right again, kind of vibes, right?
Yeah, but
See,
that would be
not that bad.
Well, that would be the one that would be the one, like I could have seriously damaged and hampered their careers due to that. And that's the one, if you talk about regret, I don't usually live with it. I don't think it serves any real purpose.
It doesn't really.
But that one was just because it was so blatant for me, and look, I was 19 at the time. I could use that as an excuse. It's not an excuse.
No.
It happened. I did it. And yeah, so I would say that would be the one lie that I would say that I regret and definitely would like to take back. I did rectify it, or tried my best to rectify it, but
how receiving were they? Like, once it came out that like it was kind of bogus, like were they pretty cool? Like with you trying to tight, or was it like,
one of them was okay about it, the other one not so much. And it's a type of thing that there's nothing you can do about it, man. I mean, in the sense of like you can say sorry a couple of times, but there's it gets to a point where it's like I did what I did. I went back. I'm trying to fix it now, and so yeah.
I kind of, kind of off topic. Well, it's the Daily Chronicles. Everything we do is off topic. I like how you guys' fucking schedule is set up. So like here in America, if you want to become a chef, it depends on how you want to do it. Like technically, if we're being honest, a chef is just the manager of a kitchen. They oversee a kitchen, right? Yeah, of course. But then you have different levels and different types of chefs, and it's more nuanced and whatnot. But you could go from, you really could, and it's really frowned upon by actual chefs, but you could just open your own food truck or kitchen, like we were talking about earlier, and be the chef of that kitchen. If you're running it, you are, by all means. But it's a lot different to earn that apron, you know what I'm saying? To earn that coat instead of just buying it. You can tell, by if I walk behind someone, I'm like, yo, behind, and they're like, heard, that person works in the kitchen. It's Kitchenese, man. We fucking speak it, and it's you. And it's like if I don't pepper the word fuck, I'm not comfortable around you. If I'm not comfortable, to fucking swear around you, I don't know if I want to be there. But the truth is like here in America, there's so much bullshit behind becoming a chef and a certain type of chef. Like, there's this place, and I'm not talking ill will about the organization, but there's the ACF, the American Culinary Federation or Foundation, or whatever the fuck. Okay. I think it's cool and it serves a purpose, but I no longer tie myself to that. They're more about collecting dues and payments from people than not actually doing shit. And truth be told, I don't really think that it's fair that I have to take like so many hours of, fucking work and you're getting paid for it in some instances, but I don't think I should have to sacrifice that amount of time in my career just to appease somebody else to get them to give me some kind of stupid moniker that I can't even fucking use.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of technical colleges. I would think that I've always, and I'm obviously biased in the sense that this is how I came up. So obviously I'm going to have a different opinion.
Right.
I've always liked the value of apprenticeships.
Yes.
So basically apprenticeships work in Australia. They're only 3 years long now. You do 3 years on the job training. Once a year for 6 weeks, you go to what they call tech or technical college or whatever. And you go do a 6-week block at tech. And that's just the stuff to cover more bases. So it's a lot around. So your first year, it's like safety-based knife skills, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Second year, a lot more about meat preparation, meat production, breaking down fish, all that shit. And then the third year is a lot about so you learn how to cost menus properly. You learn how to all your cogs, cost of goods. You learn
the
how to
technical side of shit, right?
Yeah, and so generally speaking, by the end of it, every Australian chef who's done an apprenticeship has a baseline of, they know this,
Right.
The technical college thing never makes any sense to me because you don't get any real world experience. I've never understood the idea of cooking in a college for 2 years and then walking into a kitchen. They're two different worlds, man. They're both important, but they're two different, just completely different fucking worlds. And I don't know if this is, I was in a group the other day, one of my groups the other day, and this guy was talking about he spent $100,000 on a culinary. Is that
degree? Yeah.
Is that actually fucking real, man?
Yes, that is real. Yes. Depends on how you do it. I've heard of people spending more. Well, they would say, well, you have to adjust for the price of inflation.
That is not. There's. I'm sorry, man. For me, there is no justification at all. Forget. There's no justification at all for a culinary college to charge somebody a fucking house deposit to learn how to fillet a fish and poach an egg. That is the most ridiculous. Oh, man, when I read that, I was like, I still can't now process it. It's just.
It's terrible, man. Look at it this way. So America is all about. So Americans, real quick before we get out of here, we're born into debt. That is the truth. Okay, and debt is the only thing that can survive a person that dies. Meaning, if my father, dies owing debts, they're gonna come ask me. No, I haven't spoke to the man in years. What the fuck do you mean?
Yep.
I'm not paying. No, absolutely.
Yeah, they're not buying.
You got to know how to. If you don't protect yourself, they can fuck you, and that's not fair. So student loans is a huge issue here in America. You know what I'm saying?
Massive. Big up on that. Yeah. And the forgiveness or something. Somebody was talking about. I think Biden was talking about he wanted to forgive them or forgive a portion of them. I think he got to or something.
Yeah, he got to do a portion of it to kind of, flex a little bit to give people false hope, if you will, to basically buy votes is what he was doing. I don't understand who you are. That's the truth.
That's what I thought it was. It's sort of like he's like, we'll forgive the whole lot. And then it's like, we'll forgive 10 grand. I'm like, wow.
That's not shit. Well, there are programs in place, just real quick, and you'll like this. So my old lady has X number of student debt. Who doesn't? Aside from that kind of debt, we really don't have any. We've paid that off. I mean, we did good,
just
right?
School,
right? Just school. Medical. We don't really have any medical bills. Knock on wood. But at the same time, her school debt. She has a master's in public work or public health, right? And so if she continues to work for a nonprofit, she has to work for a nonprofit for a decade, for 10 years. Okay. Just has to be a nonprofit. All right. After 10 years, they will forgive her student loan debts.
Oh, that's cool.
That's really cool. She's 8 years out of 10.
Yeah.
Almost there, right? So
right.
The problem, here's where they get you. Now, this is where it doesn't make sense, right? The entire time that she's working that 10 years, she has to pay on her student loans. Now, hang on. It gets even better. It gets even fucking better. If you look at what she pays versus how much it affects the balance at the end of each year, it doesn't change.
So they accrue interest.
Correct. So while it's
so the government...
So you're paying the interest. You're not paying on anything on the actual loan. So let's say you owe $36K one year. You've paid $1,000 a month. So minus 12 grand, it would be 20 something thousand, right? No. Tell me why it's the exact same, if not more.
Yeah, you're just paying off the interest. It's like
you're not paying on anything really. You see what I'm saying? That's the truth. Exactly. It's a predatory fucking loan. And going back to what you were saying about the guy to tie out the show, man, $100,000, it does seem like a lot on a culinary career, but the truth of the matter is we're all born into debt as Americans. So any way they can twist it to get money from you to owe somebody,
I can't, man. I can't. There's absolutely there's nothing.
There's no need for that.
There is no justification. I don't care, man. I don't care. There is nothing you could show me or set. Like there is no argument you can make to me that would make me think that's a reasonable proposition for someone. Like it is just. And look, hey, self-agency, you sign on the line, so there's definitely some of that for me, right? Right. You choose to do it, but the fact that it even exists is just.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. So I look at it this way.
Mental.
It is. And it's that person was influenced so much or gun to their head, if you will, situations where they've seen rock bottom or whatever and decided to make that choice.
Right.
However,
I didn't even know what to write, man. I didn't even know what to write. I'm always always keen to give advice, and I'm always keen to sort of help people out if they're, But I didn't even know. Like I didn't even. I think I just wrote something along the lines of like, I think I just wrote 100K for a culinary degree as a crime against humanity or something. Because it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, you could buy a restaurant damn near at this point. I mean, with them shutting down left, right, front, and center. But it is what it is, man. It's hopefully we're going to come back from this. There is a recession here. It's obviously not a joke, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Like the UPS, which is it's like a FedEx like kind of delivery service.
Yeah.
Right. They're getting paid $150K, $170K a year now. That's all benefits and everything combined, which is pretty good. Let's be honest, pretty good. Correct. So I'm hoping that we kind of follow suit. I'm hoping that the rest of America goes, fuck it, we can print more money and kind of go that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that it's either that. I think we either increase how much people get paid, which people don't want to do, or we decrease some of their debt that's accrued, like the interest rates and shit like that on student loans, predatory things and house rates and all that shit. Figure it the fuck out. The fact that you can't balance that openly shows the corporate greed, and it just pisses me off and makes the rest of the world, like our Australian friend here, scratch their head and just feel embarrassed to the United States. But
I would say it has to be a combination. For me, it would have to be a combination. Lower taxes. And like you can't just jack wages up, and you can't just like it has to be it has to be a measured response. And I believe both need to be done. But man, like Australians, we're no model of fucking economic brilliance. I mean, we're not.
I think that we need to take some good Australian leaders, progressive people, and some progressive Americans, have them sit down for a fucking little barbecue and see what happens. There's an old before we get out of here, there's an old lawyer saying that if a lawyer sat down with a judge and $500 at a table, they could fix a lot of the world's problems pretty quick.
You know what? I would not bet against it, and I would not. I would like to be at the table though, because it'd be
That'd be some great crack. But my man, I appreciate you stopping by. Dude, Bobbie's Bites, y'all check him out. It's all over Facebook. I think I saw on Instagram somewhere.
Yeah, you did,
It's
but
all
it's
over.
not. I'm not. I don't know, I'm just not super active. I've never got my head around IG. I've never really taken to the platform. I don't know what it is.
Fair.
I don't know. I like long form written content.
Okay.
I like reading, and I like interacting easily with the stuff that I read or consume. Right. And IG it's not as easy as on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I tend to sort of just hang it on Facebook. It's just, and like, I'm a boomer at heart with technology, so Facebook's easy as fuck to use, man. Like, comment, like that. It's so easy to use. So
it's right there for you. And like I said, on Facebook, Bobbie Bites, y'all check him out. The Mutton Magic, dude, I'm telling you right now, it's already got my mouth watering. I too love a good rack of lamb. I'll be honest with you. But yeah, my tokers, my jokers, and smokers. Again, this has been another amazing episode of the Daily Chronicles, y'all. We have shirts, so hit me up for some shirts, stickers, and slaps, or whatever the fuck. But until next time, y'all, we'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
You see the light before the light becomes your enemy. Hear this